So the fourth and final night of the Democratic National Convention took place, and Joe Biden accepted the nomination for the Democratic Party presidential ticket. Harris will be his VP, obviously, and of course, typical neoliberal corporate centrist fashion. His acceptance speech was a nice big word salad full of a lot of platitudes and not really a whole lot of substance, which frankly shouldn't be surprising to anybody.
This campaign isn't just about winning votes. It's about winning the heart and, yes, the soul of America. Winning it for the generous among us, not the selfish. Winning it for workers who keep this country going, not just the privileged few at the top. Winning it for those communities who have known the injustice of a knee on the neck.
Dude, you were one of the fucking hugest proponents of the crime bill that has led to our current pandemic of, of our carceral state. We incarcerate more people than anywhere in the world. Joe Biden was the architect of that. Shut the fuck up.
All the young people have known only America being rising inequity and shrinking opportunity. They deserve the
You're one of the reasons for that, Joe. Jesus Christ. Free trade. Iraq war. You don't support Medicare for all. You don't support a Green New Deal. You don't support tuition-free college. You've pledged that nothing will fundamentally change.
Of America's promise. They deserve to experience it in full. No generation ever knows what history will ask of it. All we can ever know is whether we're ready when that moment arrives.
Again, just a bunch of empty words that have no meaning, just super abstract, nothing on policy, because he's not running on policy. He's simply running on the fact that he's not Donald Trump, but the polls have continued to tighten. Biden's lead has been shrinking because people are fed up. They actually want change, and simply not being Donald Trump, frankly, might not be enough to get him over the finish line. I mean, for fuck's sake, give people a reason to vote.
Now history has delivered us to one of the most difficult moments America's ever faced. Four historic crises, all at the same time. A perfect storm. The worst pandemic in over 100 years. The worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The most compelling call for racial justice since the 60s. And the undeniable realities and just the accelerating threats.
Dude, the Black Lives Matter movement, Joe Biden, started under the Obama-Biden administration. So shut the fuck up. When you saw how your administration responded to Ferguson.
Change.
You don't support defunding the police anyways. God damn, he's so horrible.
So the question for us is simple. Are we ready? I believe we are.
Joe Biden ain't ready. Come on. For fuck's sake, dude. Really? We could have had Bernie Sanders, but the Democratic establishment propped up this motherfucker. I mean, for God's sakes. And again, if Trump wins, don't blame the fucking voters. Blame the Democratic establishment for propping up this fucking neoliberal corporate centrist hack who is not ready to meet this moment.
The president still does not.
You actually have to give people a reason to vote. Just simply voter shaming people does not work, okay? Policy. That's why people supported Bernie Sanders, because he actually supported things like Medicare for all, tuition-free college, canceling student loan debt, a Green New Deal, abolishing ICE, things that would drastically improve the material conditions in people's life. Because can you say that about Joe Biden? Fuck no, you can't.
Well, I do. If I'm your president, on day one, we'll implement the national strategy I've been laying out since March. We'll develop and deploy rapid tests with results available immediately. will make the medical supplies and protective equipment that our country needs.
Okay, that's good from a public health perspective, Joe, but you haven't even come on and said that you would support Kamala Harris's $2,000 a month to everybody for the duration of this crisis. I mean, okay, yeah, tackling it from a public health perspective is important, but you also have to meet people's economic needs, as you pointed out. Great Depression level economic crisis. What do you have to say about that? You got that face. You got nothing, dude. You got nothing.
We'll make them here in America, so we will never again be at the mercy of China or other foreign countries in order to protect our own people. We'll make sure our schools have the resources they need to be open, safe, and effective. We'll put politics aside. We'll take the muzzle off our experts so the public gets the information they need and deserve. Honest, unvarnished truth. They can handle it. We'll have a national mandate to wear a mask, not as a burden, but as a patriotic duty to protect one another. In short, we'll do what we
And
should.
again, like, that's all fine and fucking dandy, but if you don't meet people's, if you don't help people out economically, what's that? Like, there's still going to be massive suffering, and your failure to meet the moment, your administration's failure to meet the moment with any type of bold, progressive, leftist policy platform, whoever comes after you is going to be much worse than Trump, okay?
From the very beginning, our current president's failed in his most basic duty to the nation. He's failed to protect us.
Again, so he's not proposing any type of the drastic measures that people actually need and want right now. Again, upwards of 90% of Democratic voters support Medicare for All. Joe Biden keeps doubling down. I don't support it. I don't support it. I would veto it. Doesn't support tuition-free college. Doesn't support a Green New Deal as literally the world is fucking burning and on fire. I mean, again, you actually have to give people a reason to vote. Just because Joe Biden is not Donald Trump, frankly, there's a good chance that's not going to be enough to defeat Donald Trump. You actually need to convince people why they should vote for you. Give them policy reasons of how you're going to improve their lives. Joe Biden's not doing that, is he? He's not. Okay, and this is the same shit. This is about, let's see, we'll do a little bit of this.
It finally wipes out the stain of racism. Trust, one more urgent task on us. Will we be the generation that finally wipes out the stain of racism?
Dude, you literally have bragged about working with segregationists. You're one of the prime architects of the crime bill that has just absolutely devastated communities of color and other, marginalized groups within the U.S., leading to the U.S. being, again, the biggest fucking prison population in the world. And you really want to wipe the stain of racism away, then actually support universal policies that would disproportionately benefit communities of color. Things like Medicare for All. There's already huge, disparities within healthcare for communities of color. Support tuition-free college, okay? Support canceling student loan debt. Support a Green New Deal. I mean, again, and you have to be an anti-capitalist to be an anti-racist, and Joe Biden is definitely not an anti-capitalist. Therefore he's not an anti-racist. I mean,
national character.
Jesus fucking Christ,
I
dude.
believe we're up to it. I believe we're ready. Just a week ago, yesterday,
He's so fucking horrible, dude.
Events in Charlottesville. Close your eyes. Remember what you saw on television. Remember seeing those neo-Nazis and Klansmen and white supremacists coming out of fields with lighted torches, veins bulging, spewing the same.
Okay, you're against those white supremacists, but you're not against the white supremacist institution that is the police in the United States that was literally founded and has its roots in slave patrols. Okay, you're against white supremacy and racism, then you should be in support of these communities all across the U.S. who want to defund the police. But of course you're not. You're just cherry picking, at these very, very obvious and extreme examples, while not wanting to make any type of structural changes or actually address the issues of racism, white supremacy, and capitalism within the United States, because you're an upholder of the status quo. Again, Joe Biden has said time and time again, nothing will fundamentally change in a Joe Biden administration.
Medic bile heard across Europe in the 30s. Remember the violent clash that ensued between those spreading hate and those with the courage to stand against it. You remember what the president said when asked? He said there were, quote, very fine people on both sides. It was a wake-up call for us as a country. And for me, a call to action.
I mean, frankly, I've been a little bit surprised he's been able to keep this together with his speaking thus far. Honestly, he must be well rested. Maybe he's got some meds, some drugs in him, something. But it's kind of like how they drugged him up. I think, was it the last debate or the second to last debate with Bernie? Biden was his most coherent.
At that moment, I knew I'd have to run. Because my father taught us
Jesus.
that silence was complicity. And I can never remain silent or complicit.
Dude, you're literally complicit in having the actual candidate in the race who stood the best chance of beating Donald Trump, that being Bernie Sanders, because he actually, again, had a policy platform that a vast majority, especially of Democratic voters, supported, things that would actually really improve the material conditions in people's lives, especially during a frickin' pandemic. You don't support any of that. You're complicit in that. You're complicit in potentially getting Donald Trump reelected because you're so fucking horrible.
At the time, I said we're in the battle for the soul of this nation.
Again, what the fuck does that mean, right?
You know, one of the most important conversations I've had this entire campaign was with someone who was much too young to vote. I met with 6-year-old Gianna Floyd the day before her daddy, George Floyd, was laid to rest. She's an incredibly brave little girl. Yeah,
and I bet if she was old enough, she would tell you, like, get the fuck out of my face if you're not in support of defunding the police, you fucking piece of shit tokenizer.
I'll never forget it. When I leaned down to speak to her, she looked in my eyes and she said, and I quote, "Daddy changed the world. Daddy changed the world." Her words burrowed deep into my heart. Maybe George Floyd murder was a breaking point. Maybe John Lewis is passing the inspiration. But however it's come to be, however it's happened, America's ready, in John's words, to lay down, quote, the heavy burden of hate at last.
God, he's so horrible.
And end the hard work of rooting out.
Again, no type of policy, platform, or anything. It's just these anecdotal stories which might sound nice, at face value, but they mean nothing. Again, you're talking to George Floyd's 6-year-old child. Okay, then you should say, yeah, and I also understand that people getting murdered like George Floyd by, those cops in Minneapolis, that stuff's going to keep happening unless we support defunding the police. I also support defunding the military, so we're not bombing and destroying black and brown people all across the global south. Of course, Joe Biden doesn't support any of that stuff. It's just a bunch of fucking empty words and rhetoric. It's gross.
Our systemic racism. American history tells us that it's been in our darkest moments that we've made our greatest progress, that we found the light. In this dark moment, I believe we're poised to make great progress again. There's not gonna be any great progress under a Biden-Harris administration. Literally, Kamala Harris was the so-called top cop
California's attorney general, and they picked her to be his running mate during this whole Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, that just really shows how completely out of touch and tone deaf, and how they, would just perpetuate the status quo, which is completely the opposite of what the United States obviously needs right now.
That we can find the light once more.
Again, what the fuck does that mean? Nothing.
Many people have heard me say this, but I've always believed you can define America in one word: possibilities.
I would define it as, I guess, shithole hyphen country.
The defining feature of America: everything is possible.
Okay, then why don't you support Medicare for all, tuition-free college, canceling student loan debt, reducing our massive, bloated, disgusting military-industrial complex, abolishing ICE, wealth tax, redistribute wealth, UBI, etc. Anything's possible. Actually support things that would help people, Joe, because he doesn't actually believe that. Again, it's just empty words, word salad, bunch of platitudes that don't have policy prescriptions backing them up.
That in America, everyone, and I mean everyone, should be given an opportunity to go as far as their dreams and God-given ability will take.
Okay, then support Medicare for all, so tens of thousands of people aren't dying in the U.S. each year because they don't have health care. Okay, it would actually save money as well. And so, again, we don't have massive amounts of people going bankrupt. So we don't have tens of millions of people shackled with student loan debt. He's so fucking horrible. And then you have liberals online and Democratic apologists. You gotta vote for Biden, Trump, orange man bad, bad. That's not how politics works, you fucking liberal hacks. You actually have to, again, give people a reason to vote. Okay? Imagine how much higher Joe Biden would be in the polls right now if he actually supported, let's say, Medicare for all. Again, something 80-90% Democratic voters support. We are in a pandemic. Tens of millions of people have lost their employer-based health care. You would think that makes sense literally on every fucking level, okay? It saves money. It saves lives. It makes sense politically. You would attract a lot of people who supported Bernie Sanders, okay? But again, his administration would just be protecting the status quo, okay? Well, they would be happy with Wall Street calling the shots, the military-industrial complex, the owner, capitalist oligarch class. And again, that's completely the antithesis of what this country needs right now. And again, the failures of his potential administration to address any of these, massive failings of the U.S. state right now are going to lead to the next Republican after Trump being much, much further to the right, okay? Voter shaming doesn't work, you fucking liberal hacks and Democratic apologists. You actually have to give people a reason to vote, okay? You want people to vote for Biden and Harris? Get Biden and Harris to actually support policies that people support, that would actually improve their lives. Not that fucking difficult. What are your thoughts? Share them down below. Peace. Much love.